So thank you very much for the kind introduction. So my name is Ferdinand Koch and I'm with VOA, the Association of Municipal Waste Management Companies here in Austria. And I would like to give you a short overview about the EPR framework, starting with the Austrian administrative, an overview of the Austrian administrative organization, and then going in details to the EPR framework we conducted here in Austria. And finally, the cost coverage and financial mechanisms and a small summary from my perspective. So Austria is a small country, I would say, a population of 9.2 million inhabitants. We are surrounded by six other European countries and Switzerland. And the corresponding ministry is the Ministry of Environment here in Austria. And we have a twofold responsibility. We have responsibilities for the waste on a federal level, which means for packaging waste, for electronic and um, electronic equipment and hazardous waste. That's on the level of the federal responsibility. And the other parts of the municipal waste is in the responsibility of the municipalities here in Austria. The structure of municipalities is very segmented. We have more than 2,000 municipalities in Austria, and we have one specific point. It's the capital of Austria, the city of Vienna, which is a city and in legal terms also a federal state or a province of Austria. And this has around about 2 million inhabitants. The second largest city has 300,000 inhabitants. So Vienna is by far the biggest settlement here in Austria, and the smallest municipality has just 45 inhabitants. We are organized, the municipal waste management is in the responsibility of the municipalities. We are organizing the collection and also the recovery or treatment of the public waste. And we have a formation of associations in Austria. All municipalities are part of one or the other kind of an association. So this ends up that 147 municipal entities are organizing in practical and operationally the municipal waste management in Austria. We need this figure once again when we come to the EPR system. So that's the structure. What we are organizing in Austria, what we did organize in Austria, that we create municipal representations. We have 4 municipal representations in Austria. We are working together as a joint EU working group. On the left side, you see the Austrian Association of Municipalities, and on the right side, the Austrian Association of Cities and Towns. Those are representations in terms of the Constitution of Austria. So these are the really official representations. They have to be involved in every development of a legal frame whatsoever. The smaller ones are part of the Austrian Association of Municipalities, and the bigger one, 200 in number, are members of the Austrian Association of Cities and Towns. So, and on the level of these Austrian waste management associations, there's a permanent working group. We call it AWV. That's me, Michael Partman, is the managing director for that. And on the operational side, we have the Association of Public Waste Management Companies, where I am allowed to be the managing director for. So this is the group of the operational acting associations or public companies, and this is the group of these associations organizing the waste management in Austria. The membership to Municipal Waste Europe is we divide the share of our fees for Municipal Waste Europe per working group of Austrian Waste Management Associations is paying, and the Austrian Association of Cities and Towns. In the background, we are working as a joint EU group and creating the position of Austria altogether so that Municipal Waste Europe gets one opinion from Austria. So that was the frame. And coming to the EPR system, we have the implemented EPR system for packaging waste, which means for the materials of glass, paper, and cardboard, plastic packaging, we call it lightweight packaging, metal packaging, and to conduct all the regulations concerned to SOP littering is also related to this EPR system of packaging waste. Second one, we have a different column. The second one is the waste for electronic equipment, WEEE. Um, different segments, large household appliances, small one, refrigerators and batteries. And since 2022, we have a deposit return system for beverage bottles and cans from plastics or metals for the volume of 0.1 to 3 liter. And the deposit is 0.25 cent per item. And producers additionally have to pay a handling fee for the organizational work of this deposit return system. And once again, they are under the umbrella of the regulations of the SOP littering because for the plastic beverage bottles. So, and we have a packaging coordination agency implemented in Austria for this packaging part. WEEE coordination agency, different one for this WEE part, and the deposit return system company. This is not an agency. I will come later back on to that. And what we have is the system in Austria for the packaging is a full cost system. The system for the WEEE is a shared cost system. And the deposit return system is also, once again, a full cost system from the perspective of the municipalities. We have both producer responsibility organizations. They are in competition. We have for every part, we have several pros. The leading one is the ARA, the Altstoff Recycling Austria, Secondary Material Recycling Austria. This was from the beginning of the packaging, different collection and recovery and recycling. That was the first organization doing that. For the glass, this ARA has a subsidiary, the so-called Glass Recycling Company. Then we have Interzero, that's a Europe-wide organization, the Licle Group, and the European Recycling Platform, and the local one, the Bonus um, uh, whole system, it's called. They are closely related to ARA because they don't have only operational work. They are collaborating with ARA. ARA is doing also the operational work for this Bonus system. This is for packaging waste, and this agency, the coordination agency, is the YKS Corporation, which is held by the producers of packaging. In the second column, for the waste of electronic equipment, we have also several pros. They are in competition. The main one is ERA, which is a subsidiary to ARA. Once again, Interzero, European Recycling Platform, and another one, UFH. This is just for this WEEE materials. And we have this recycling, the deposit company, which is held by the main shareholders is a association where the members of these associations are the stakeholder of this deposit return system. The coordinating entity is the ministry itself for the WEEE part. We have also a coordination agency implemented in Austria. This is necessary because those pros are in competition, so you need a kind of a supervisory entity because of that. How is it working? How is the cost coverage and how is the financial mechanism for the packaging waste sector? We have, because of this competition of the pros, there is a specific system in place. Every 5 years, we have an allocation of regions to the different pros in the way of a lottery. And they get their areas according to their market shares, which means that the main the main pro in Austria with a market share of around about 70%, has the main parts, is covering the main parts of Austria and at least the city of Vienna, because this is the largest or biggest region we have in Austria for this collection work. And the allocation of regions defines then the so-called bid leader for the specific region. And the region is negotiating all what's to be done in the region with this one bid leader. And all what you define with the bid leader is also in place with all the other pros. So this is a very important point. So the bid leader has to tender all services needed. However, for the municipalities, we have a specific area. So we are negotiating the services we are offering to the pros and the contracts between the municipal representation, which is the four I already mentioned, and the pros. So we have here, it's not the tender in the usual sense. We are negotiating all the specifics we need in giving the services and having a contract with the pros. Municipalities are doing the organizational work, including design of the separate collection in close collaboration with the bid leader. And then once again, it's working also for the other pros. The collection via the recycling banks or the amenity sites. Some of our municipalities or those entities of municipalities are doing also the curbside collection on their own. In the most areas, it's a part of this is a service of the private sector based on the tender. And we are forced to do all the information work to the public and to do this waste advisory work with the population in our areas. There is one main legal obligation. Municipalities have to treat the different pros exact with the equal conditions. So if you decide with the bid leader that you get an amount of money per ton, you have to give the same conditions to the other pros in terms of the practical uh, doing the services in a practical way. So this is for the packaging waste. Basically, it's a full cost system. So we should get we should cover the cost for all the services we are providing to the pros. And for the WEEE Colamo sector, it's a bit different. We are legally obliged by the regulations in Austria that municipalities have to organize locations where WEEE material can be dropped off free of charge for the inhabitants in Austria. And the cost coverage is a shared one. We get paid for the infrastructure. We need to offer this service, and we are negotiating a lump sum of euro per ton, what we get for this service, negotiated between municipal representation and the pros, and we don't get any coverage of the labor costs. So the labor costs are on the side of the municipalities, and once again, we get a separate compensation add on for the euros per ton. We get a separate compensation for the public information and all the waste advice in close communication with the population in Austria. And for those materials, municipalities are free to decide whether we recycle ourselves or we hand it over to the poor. If we recycle it on ourselves, all the business is on the side of the municipalities. So we bear the costs, but we gain also the benefits or the profits of this. Or we hand it over to the poor, then we get those costs recovered in euros per ton. So this is a free choice of the municipalities. And the pros have to, if you give choice to hand it over to the pro, those have to collect according to their market share and on demand of this WEEE agency I already mentioned. They give the order. We give the information to the agency, and the agency gives the order to the pro to collect at the municipal site for WEEE material. Mainly the collection is done in municipalities by these amenity sites. Some are calling them resource parks. So this is the resource park of the city of Graz in the southern part of Austria. Graz has 300,000 inhabitants. So that's the way in this. So I'm coming to the end. What's my personal view and the summary what we have in Austria? From my perspective, it's working well. Sometimes we have different perspectives. What we learned is that negotiations with the pros on a federal level, we are doing that with these representations, is a good practice. It's working very well. We always find a solution if there are different perspectives. However, those different perspectives, they're coming. We have different tasks. The municipal sector is we are in the long-term service for the public. That's our world, and the pros in for doing the work for their own customers, they have a more short-term needs because the industries and retail have short-term needs. So we are in the municipal sector is thinking in terms of reasonable costs. And on the other side, we have the industry, which is used to think in market-oriented prices. And it's a little bit different. So this is always the point where we have to find a solution which we become, or which is with the background is this different perspective. And at the end of the day, we have 147 municipal contractors. Every municipal contractor has to have a contract with every pro and the DRS company. So we are ending up with in total with around about 880 contracts, and the billing is done usually quarterly. So this is the organizational work we have to do to fulfill all the demands we defined in our contracts. So that's been the overview of Austria. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm open for any question or discussion.
Thank you a lot, Ferdinand. It was very interesting. I have a couple of questions, but I would like to open the floor to our participants. Who would like to start with questions or comments? Yes, Nana, please go ahead. Could you also introduce yourself? Because there are people, I forgot at the beginning to mention that we have also 3 or 4 people in the room who are not members of Municipal with Europe. They either represent another association who is not member, or also we have 2 or 3 invitees from the parliament today. So it's good that you also introduce yourself when you speak. Go ahead, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you, Ferdinand. I was a bit interested in these coordination organizations that the pros developed themselves. They kind of joined together and made this VKS GmbH. So it's total private. We have been discussing in Denmark if we actually could do this due to competition rules. We discussed it with the batteries, where we could not keep our legislation that municipalities are forced to collect batteries. And it seemed to be very difficult for the pros to make any kind of organization. I think it's more or less a clearinghouse you have there. And what if there is coming a new pro? Are they just invited into this VKS GmbH? How does this develop? And have you had it for a long time? And can I learn more somewhere?
No, thank you very much for this very, very important question. I once again share my screen. So it should work. I wasn't very precise in giving you the information about this VKS, because there's a difference between the ownership of the company, which definitely is not, the owner is the ministry. But the financing of this VKS is done by the pros. So they have to give the money to that. The competence of the VKS is in fact it's a clearing agency, and the competence is coming from the legal framework in Austria. So they have to have an eye on a fair and clear competition. They have to check the numbers and figures of the pros, and they have to check the shares they have, because the shares are defining what are the costs the specific pro has to bear or to cover. So that's the VKS. On the other side, this electronic equipment agency, this is a little bit different, because in fact the owners are in fact not the companies, but the producers are the owner of this agency. But once again, the competence of the agency is given by the legal framework and is given by the ministry. And once again, this is the clearing agency to have an eye on a fair competition, on the figures and numbers, and to define the shares for cost covering. For the DRS, we don't have an agency, because there was the decision of the producers that they would like to have an own association. So the different stakeholders of the whole system are building an association, and the company itself, who is doing all the operational work, is a subsidiary to this association. And the clearing point is the ministry itself, because it's just one organization and not several one in competition.
Thank you. It was very clear.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Does someone else want to comment or have a question? Okay, I have a question also linked to this. You have several PROs in competition, as you have explained. With concerning the target, how does it work in terms of accountability in reaching the targets for example, collection and recycling?
Yeah,
between the PROs?
the responsibility to meet the European-based targets is on the federal state. So the ministry is more or less the ministry for Austria is responsible for meeting the EU targets. However, they have a look on how is the specific pro working. So when we take the biggest one, ARA, with a share of 70% of the whole market, and they are asking ARA, how is it with the material you are personally handling in your own organization, which is the share of the recovery or recycling, but just in your own organization, to have a good picture how the whole picture for Austria might be. So that's but the responsibility at the end of the day, it's a national responsibility, and we don't have a regulation or any possibility to give the pros a fine if they are not reaching for their own material share, the recycling quota. So this is a kind of maybe that's a weak point, I suppose. So the responsibility is on the federal level.
Thank you, clear, Ferdinand. I saw, Federico, you raised your hand. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I have also a video connection problem, so I don't know if in the first question of Nana was already addressed this one. Thank you, Ferdinand. Very interesting presentation. I was wondering whether we also have the same issue in Italy. When a municipality or a local waste operator decide to recycle by itself we collected instead of giving it to the PROs, are there any discussion on whether the PRO compensate the part of the fee which should be entitled to cover the cost of end-of-life treatment of this because it remains the money where the purchaser pays the the EE. So in that case,
when the municipality is deciding, or the entity of the municipality decides to do it on its own, then it's on their own risk in terms of costs and in terms of revenue. If you give it to the pro, then the pro is bearing the costs, but just partly, just the infrastructure and the costs, but not the labor work. So we are discussing the fee we will get from the pro is based on just the infrastructural costs. With the new regulation for batteries, we try to change this, but we have to negotiate this year.
thank you.
And maybe an important point, if we do it on our own, the recovery or recycling, then we have to give the information to the agency so that they have the data for the recovery and recycling all over Austria.
Thank you. I think, Nana, you have a question?
I always have a lot of questions, so you have to stop me if time is running short, you know?
The last one.
I was wondering, Ferdinand, you had this number of contracts and then you were multiplying. But before you showed us how many municipalities you have in Austria, and I don't understand, like, who is entering these contracts with each others? And you also said that it's easier to negotiate on federal level than on local level. So I was just really confused.
Yeah. Sorry for that I haven't been very clear. Once again, I try to share.
There you have the 147. Yeah. Okay.
So all those 2,000 municipalities are organized in different associations. Some are doing the business on their own, and most of them are organized in associations based on 20 municipalities or 10 or 5. And all those different associations all together, including the big cities which are doing the operational work on their own, leads to these 147 entities or organizations, and those entities and organizations are the holder of the contracts.
Okay.
On behalf of their municipalities in the background.
So you have the associations to do the contracts, and what was the difference between the local negotiations and the federal negotiations? Are you kind of organization also?
Those are the contractors. What we are doing is on the federal level with these representations, with the municipal representations, these 4, we are working together as a joint group, and we are doing the negotiation work on behalf of the municipalities and their associations. So the negotiations we are having on the federal level, we say it's fair to get, let's say, 30 euros per ton for batteries. When we are collecting the batteries, the pros have to pay 30 euros per ton, and this is the price, let's say, the price or the cost recovery all over Austria for every entity, for every municipality.
And what is then left for the local contracts if you can do this on the national level?
Every association or municipal entity has to have the contract on their own.
Okay.
Based on the conditions we negotiated on the federal level.
And you actually do negotiate a price also on federal level, because we don't
have an organizational demands. Where are the bins? The design. What are the basics for the practical design of the collection work and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for
this slide.
I'm afraid
it is.
Got in. Or maybe if Ferdinand, you would like to add something quickly? Okay. Because we started with a bit of delay, and we would like to hear also from Bernardo. Thank you very much, Ferdinand, and for the presentation and the questions. I also have more questions, but maybe I will ask you by email. So Bernardo, please go ahead. I remind you all when you speak to present yourself for the participants to know who you are and who you represent. And I will stop myself now. Thank you, Bernardo.
Thanks, Stefano. Policy officer of Utile Italia. Utile Italia is the national Italian association representing utility in providing public service in water, waste, and energy sector. I'm not an expert in EPR. I mean, I'm not the person appointed in my organization to following EPR, except for textile, that is not already in place, but I try to do my best. Can you see my presentation?
Could you make it in full screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, better. Thank you.
Then we can skip the first slide. In Italy, municipalities are responsible for collection of municipal waste. And municipal waste are household waste and similar waste. But similar waste can, however, be handled also by the market. This happens mostly for paper and cardboard, and just for licensed producer like supermarket, hypermarket, and so on. Municipality decide individually or collectively who run the collection through a in-house providing company or a private or mixed or public in a public tender. They set also the collection system, door-to-door, seat container, frequency, and so on, and also the financial model, for example, a pay-as-you-throw system. Now, depending on the waste stream, PRO that handle municipal waste, because there are also PRO handling just industrial waste, that PRO handling municipal waste can or finance just collection and in some cases sorting in a perspective of a financial responsibility, or also after a financial responsibility, pick up collected and sorted waste for the following treatment in a perspective of an organizational responsibility. In some cases, for example, battery, PROs also organize collection in just a perspective of organizational responsibility. Therefore, municipality and waste operator acting on behalf of municipality are responsible or just for only for collection or collection and sorting, is the case of packaging, or have just a residual or not responsibility, and is the case of battery. Other important things is that who is responsible for municipal waste can decide whether to deliver waste collected to PRO or sell it to the market. This is because in Italy, EPR has a subsidiary role with respect to the market. If the market is convenient, we can sell it to the market. Is alternative, otherwise we can give it to PROs. Those are the waste stream actually under EPR in Italy. There are EPR already in place, for example, battery, packaging, wheel, battery, waste tire, oil of mineral or vegetable origin, polyethylene goods, end-of-life vehicle, and very recently also end-of-life fireworks. There are an EPR that comes soon that is textile. There are also two kinds of EPR under construction. The first is a non-packaging plastic product. Our Ministry of Environment launched a public consultation concerning a draft of national decree establishing this kind of EPR, but also under construction we have an EPR on furniture, including mattresses. And we also have a particular kind of EPR, particularly just because it's now at a standstill, is the EPR on tobacco product. And after I can explain more in detail why is still on hold this kind of EPR, which is the role of public authority. In Italy, EPR is established by government, or following EU directive and regulation, or following its own initiative on a voluntary basis. And there is no a general model. EPR can be set just following a single article in a national legislative decree, or following a specific decree of Minister of Environment with the nature of a regulation. The Minister of Environment plays a steering role, but also an analysis and control role. For example, the Minister of Environment set the overall target and obligation for PROs, for example, concerning the achievement of recycling target, but also exercise a supervisory and control function over PROs. For example, Minister of Environment verify the regulatory of the status of each PROs. We have also a national register of producer. In this register, company required to comply with the EPR obligation must register and submit data relating their product placed on the market on yearly basis. And finally, since 2028, we have also a national regulatory agency on municipal waste management. This kind of authority updates the tariff method for determining the fee for integrated municipal waste cycle, and also approve tariff prepared by competent body. Competent body are municipality in individual or aggregated form. And recently, this authority has begun to investigate also the level of cost coverage by EPR systems, which is the role of waste operator. In the context of national agreement between PROs, municipalities, and sometimes also waste operator, are defined the responsibility of the party. I mean, who does what, for example, how is regulated the pickup of waste by civic amenity site or the sorting plant, but also the scope of necessary cost to be covered by EPR. This is a very important thing, because even remaining within the framework of EU and national regulation, our experience show that there is still a room for interpretation, and this generates a high level of conflict in the negotiation between parties, municipality, PROs, and also waste operator. And within this agreement are defined also the level of economic compensation for service provided. It's also important to know that in this context, municipality and waste operator providing service on behalf of municipality have a slightly different perspective. Because while the National Association of Municipalities play a political role in the negotiation, the Association of Waste Operator express an industrial perspective. Company providing service of general interest indeed are custodian of primary technical data, technical and economic data. For example, the industrial cost of services they provide, and processes too, and the labor cost and so on. But the involvement of waste operator in the national agreement depend on case by case. For industrial waste, there is no involvement, of course, because industrial waste are not managed by municipality. But for municipal waste, the involvement varies. For example, in the table below, you can see that for packaging waste, there is not a direct or institutional role of our association. We have just a technical support to municipality. But in WEEE agreement, in textile, also is not already in place. In tobacco, also is not active. We have a direct involvement. In battery agreement, we have no still direct institutional involvement, but there will be a possible involvement for the future new agreement. How many PROs we have for each waste stream? In this picture, you can see that we have different models. First of all PROs in Italy are not for profit, but the model change following the different waste stream. For example, for packaging, we have two kinds of fulfillment of the obligation under EPR, a collective fulfillment and an individual fulfillment. Individual fulfillment means that producers are responsible just for the kind of product they sell, put on the market. For example, if I sell just plastic box, I will be responsible for plastic box. But let's talk to your kind of fulfillment. The collective fulfillment is the most important kind of fulfillment. We have a general consortium that coordinates single PROs, one for each single packaging material, paper, wood, glass, and so on. In the WEEE, we have another model. We have multiple PROs in competition each other and a national coordination body. The same model we have for textile, and in tobacco product, we have just a simple collective fulfillment model with just one PROs that represent the largest part of producer. Let's start with the first focus on packaging waste. The EPR was established in 1997. There is a collective system that coordinates 7 consortia, 7 different contract schemes, one for each packaging material, including compostable plastic. We have to be honest. They show, this kind of EPR show an effectiveness in achieving circular economy target. Indeed, in Italy, we already achieved the 2013 recycling target on packaging, except for plastic. The national agreement is divided in 8 parts. The first part is a general framework with principle, and after we have 7 technical annexes with rules for determining the level of compensation for each waste stream. In this kind of EPR, we have a high level of conflict in the negotiation, and also a great capacity of PROs to influence decision also at a political level. Concerning the cost coverage, we are in a phase of transition from a higher cost approach to an almost 80% of necessary cost approach. But what does higher cost approach means? Means that EPR is only responsible for the higher cost that separate collection has compared to a zero scenario. That means no separate collection is in place. It was just a tricky way for industrial packaging to pay less money. But now in the new agreement that it's closed in the last month, for the first time after Directive of 2018, the approach will change to almost 80% of necessary cost coverage. As you can see in the table below, there is a low level of cost coverage, especially for substream. For example, for plastic, glass, paper, and cardboard, we go from just 30% of the cost coverage to 80% of aluminum, but it's a case. But in the new approach, just plastic and glass remain underfinanced. Probably the condition for plastic and glass remain the same of the previous agreement. In this picture, we can see the coverage of contract between PROs and municipality. And where is no contract, separate collected or sorted waste are sold to the market. In some cases, some contract regulate the possibility of leaving and re-entering in the agreement with PROs, that I can remain within the contract. Also, if for some months during the year, I can sell my sorted waste to the market. But in general, you can see there is a large part of the country under contract with PROs. And in the latest picture, we can see the amount of economic compensation paid by PROs. Those compensations are related to the quantity and quality of separated, collected, or sorted waste, and also to the unit level, I mean Euroton of compensation for single packaging waste material. For example, the unit level of compensation of plastic is higher than one of glass or wood and so on. And while you can see a big amount of compensation came from 600 million of euro in 2019 to almost 700 millions of euro in 2033. We estimated that the overall real cost borne by municipality and waste management operator concerning management, the cost of packaging waste, municipal waste management is at least double. Then just half of the real cost is actually paid, compensated by EPR. The second focus concerns WE. In WE, we have a national coordination body and several PRO for the collective fulfillment of EPR obligation. The national coordination body is the very important thing, is the single point of contact for negotiation and problem solving. Then also if we have several PROs also in competition each other, there is no a higher entropy, because municipality and waste operator have a single point of contact, that is the coordination body. There is also a low level of conflict in this negotiation, but also because in this case, waste management operator are involved in the negotiation, in the national agreement. As I already said, there is competition between PROs, but just in representing producer of E. Quantitative collection target for each PRO are based on the market share of their associated member. For example, if my member represents 40% of the market of WE, my obligation is to collect 40% of WE produced on yearly basis. Concerning cost coverage, the cost coverage only concern the collection in city amenity side. And this means that EPR doesn't cover cost of collection from household. And this is an heritage of our WE directive, as you remember. There is also not a necessary cost coverage model, but just a reward system based on collection efficiency of each civic amenity side. Efficiency means something like a collection rate of each single amenity site. And in we are struggling to reach separate collection target. In 2025 in Italy, on average, we collect just 6.2 kilo of WE per inhabitant per capita. In this slide, you can see our performances divided for single group of WE, for example, large or small appliance, monitor, light, and so on, and also for region. And in the right column, also the compensation paid by PROs divided for each region of Italian country. And the last focus is on tobacco product. In this case, PRO was born before the national decree establishing the EPR on tobacco product. And pending in the period of pending of a national decree, negotiation have begun between parties, PROs, municipality, and waste operator. And in November 2024, the parties have reached an agreement on economics based on data provided by stakeholders and based on a shared calculation methodology. This agreement provided for an yearly contribution calculated in relation to the plastic content in cigarette filter. This plastic content varies on the basis of the technological evolution, and also based on a contribution related with the quantity of waste littered, estimated by compositional analysis. And this amount was approximately 1,200 euro per ton of waste littered of cigarette filter. But unfortunately, this EPR is not yet operational, as EU Commission considered that SUP directive cannot be transposed in the national level simply through a stakeholder agreement. There is a need of a national legislation or decree or regulation transposing the European directive. But the national decree is not yet published yet, because Italy is actually facing an infringement procedure for non-complying with SUP directive. And this is the reason for now this kind of EPR is still on hold. Then,
could you please finish?
Yes, of course.
Yes. Thank you.
To sum up, pro and cons. Under pro, we have to be honest, EPR contribute to finance of municipal waste management and lowering the cost borne by citizens and local finances. And for such waste stream, EPR has demonstrated its effectiveness in achieving targets on circular economy, but not in all waste stream, as we already saw. And EPR also developed support to municipality and waste operator in spreading awareness on separating collection. But as we saw, EPR doesn't cover the full cost of the management of municipal waste. So as part of this cost is still borne by municipality and taxpayer. In some cases, there is also a high conflict during the transposition and implementation phase. This is due to a not sufficient detailed EU and national regulatory framework on cost to be covered by EPR. And our experience show that where municipal waste operators are directly involved in the negotiation between PROs and municipality, the debate takes on a technical value and not just on a political one, and it becomes easier to find an agreement. And finally, our experience shows also that it's not important whether there is just one or more PROs. What really matters is that if there is one of PROs, in the case of multiple PROs, a national coordination body is also provided. There is also a last slide with a political statement, but I cannot comment this and give you the floor to you.
Thank you a lot, Bernardo, for this detailed presentation. I think I have questions or maybe remarks as well, but please go ahead with questions or reflections if you want to share. Don't you have any question, Nana, this time?
Of course I have, Stefania, but maybe it's not really related. But I just put out on my paper, it's like, do you have a cap on your waste fee in Italy? Because that was new to me. And I know it's nothing to do with this producer responsibility, but I think it was extremely interesting, and that the authority that is working with this cap, that they can see that you don't get the money from the pros that you should have. That's what at least I think I understood.
Being the National Regulation Authority set the dynamic of increasing of tariff. And this is one argument, one topic, one item. And in the other hand, all contribution paid by PROs decrease the amount of tariffs to be paid by citizens. And then this is two different levels. And the cap of increasing of waste management tariff to be paid by citizens are related to the investment cost of waste management company.
Is that clear, Nana?
For example.
No, but I will meet Bernardo next week. I will continue then. Maybe it's just, we have off tomorrow. It's holiday tomorrow. So.
But have time, the amount of contribution paid by PROs contribute to lowering waste tariff, and then there is a larger room for waste operator to determine this kind of tariff.
I think I understood.
But
Thank you,
there are two different levels.
Does someone have a question? Yes, Hugrun from Iceland.
Yes, thank you, Estefania. I didn't notice where to raise my hand on Zoom. I guess I'm not used to Zoom anymore. Thank you both, Ferdinand and Bernardo, for really interesting presentations. It's really, I think it's so valuable to gain insight how the EPR systems are working in different countries, and we're all kind of doing different things, apparently. But just a quick question to you, Bernardo. I noticed that you talked about that, I guess, was it like Environment and Energy Authority was doing some kind of, a checkup on if the EPR fees are covering the necessary costs of municipalities. I just wanted to ask, how did this come by? Is there some legal requirement, or was someone who suggested that this kind of investigation should take place? Or so that was my question. Thank you.
The second one is it was just an investigation. It's not a legal binding till now. And in this investigation, if I'm not wrong, 2 or 3 years ago, the authority said that the level of compensation of EPR system is around 14 of the total general cost of waste management under EPR. Then also the national authorities state that our services is underfinanced by EPR. But it was just an investigation.
I have a question related to that. What would you be able to do if you actually had all the data and all of that and put it forward at national level? Is there anything to be like, okay, this should be like a cost coverage and it's not meeting the target? What is there something possible to do?
It was an important help, the directive of 2018 that set the obligation of EPR to cover almost 80% of necessary costs. Following this principle, the new agreement is very recent. It was closed the last month. Set this target, but in the negotiation we was able to reach this target just in 2029 for such packaging waste stream, not for glass and plastic. Glass industry say to politics they have no enough money to pay to municipality, and also, as you know, plastic industry has a huge prices, and they say the same things, and then they cannot fulfill 100% their responsibility under EPR, and that's it.
Thank you. I also have maybe the last question related to packaging. I saw in your presentation that you mentioned also, but maybe I missed it. I missed this detail that Utilitalia is not involved in directly with at institutional level in the discussions around the packaging. Why not for packaging, and why not for packaging and yes for other streams?
Good question. It's just a national law. The national law setting the framework for packaging EPR doesn't provide for our inclusion in the negotiation, but the national framework legislation on EPR on packaging on WE, yes, include our representative. This is the difference.
Okay, thank you. So yes, Ferdinand, go ahead, please.
One question. You mentioned fireworks. How is it organized with the fireworks? How are you collecting those unusable one, for example?
Is very new, quite no, but we are not responsible for this. the mostly who he sell firework, fire item are responsible to collect it. But we have a very recent national decree, is a regulation on civic amenity side that update an old regulation of 18 years ago. And in this regulation, there is also the possibility for municipality to collect end-of-life fire items.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's already 1 hour since we started with the presentation, so I think I would leave it here. I'm sure that we could continue the discussions and questions, but I would maybe highlight that, well, first, thank you to you, Ferdinand and Bernardo, for your time and your valuable insights into Austrian and Italian systems, and to my colleague Eric for organizing this small webinar. And I would just like to highlight that this is teaching us that the EPR schemes are implemented in a very different ways, but all of them or several of them can be actual effective. We don't have to have a harmonized, completely equal model everywhere, and we need to adapt to the different realities in member states. I noted that, for example, in the Austrian and Italian cases, you have national coordination body in case you have multiple PROs for the same streams, and that can be an effective model. But I also learned that, for example, in Austria, if I understood right, the cost coverage for we is more, let's say I would say it's better. It covered the collection. However, for Italy, it covered only the collection at civic amenity sites. So this is a difference, and maybe I identify a loophole in the WE directive. But yeah, these some thoughts to share with you. Let's leave it there, and thank you very much. We will share the recording in the internet.
With the members. Ferdinand and Bernardo, are you okay sharing the presentation with other participants?
Of course, of course.
Great.
I try to define a more detailed way in order to also who not able to follow this presentation can go through the presentation and understand also without my comment.